The Palestinian-Israeli conflict originated early in the 20th century and continues until today. It is the result of a mass emigration of Jews to Palestine and is the name for how the two groups continue to fight over the land, especially the Gaza Strip and the West Bank. During the years 1250 BC to 638 AD, the area that now makes up the Israel and Palestinian territories were constantly conquered and reconquered and settled by Israelites, Romans such as Alexander the Great, Muslims, and the Byzantines. The British Mandate period lasted for a little more than 20 years, from 1920 to 1948. The government, through the Balfour Declaration, stated that they wished to form a national home for the Jewish people within Palestine, using whatever means necessary to do so. The United Nations Partition Plan for Palestine was adopted on November 29, 1947, following the ejection of British rule in Palestine. It was a document proposing that there was to be an ethnic partition between the Arabs and Jews, creating two different states. The State of Israel was established on May 14, 1948. It was done because the world pitied the Jews during World War II and the cruelty they suffered from the Holocaust. It also seemed the easiest way to separate the Jews and the Arabs within the area. The Palestine Liberation Organization was created on May 28, 1964, by those that wanted to create an independent state of Palestine. It acts as a legislative body and even has a small guerrilla army to mobilize in order to fight for their rights. The June War, also known as the Six-Day War, took place in 1967. The neighboring countries of Egypt, Jordan, and Syria had mobilized their forces on the Israeli border, forcing Israel to launch their airstrikes on airfields and dismantling the other's fleets and raising tensions. The United Nations Security Council Resolution 242 was adopted in 1967. It attempted to make peace between the two groups at war and requested the Israelis' withdrawal from the territories their soldiers had occupied during the Six-Day War. The 1949 armistice agreements ended the fighting in the 1948 Arab-Israeli War and established the line separating the Israeli forces and those of the neighboring Jordanian West Bank. The United Nations promised to supervise these lines and ensure that they were not violated. The October War, also known as the Yom Kippur War, was started when the Arab United Forces attacked Israel. The United States, as well as the Soviet Union, had become involved, making Cold War tensions rise. This war ended with the United Nations intervention and a win for Israel.
The First Intifada. In the summer 1987, the Palestinian population in the West Bank and Gaza began a mass uprising against the Israeli occupation. This uprising or intifada was not started or orchestrated by the PLO leadership in Tunis. Rather, it was a popular mobilization that drew on the organizations and institutions that developed under occupation. The Oslo Accords, the fear of radical Islam, and the stalemate in the Washington talks brought the Rabin government to reverse the long-standing Israeli refusal to negotiate with the PLO. Consequently, Israel initiated secret negotiations directly with PLO representatives. The talks were conducted in Oslo, Norway. They produced the Israeli-PLO Declaration of Principles, which was signed in Washington in September 1993. The Declaration of Principles was based on mutual recognition of Israel and the PLO. It established that Israel would withdraw from the Gaza Strip and Jericho, with additional withdrawals from further unspecified areas of the West Bank during a 5-year interim period. The Oslo Accord set up a negotiating process without specifying an outcome. The process was supposed to have been completed by May 1999. The Second Intifada. The problems of the peace process initiated at Oslo combined the daily frustration and humiliations inflicted on Palestinians in the occupied territories, as well as corruption in the Palestinian Authority, converged to ignite the Second Intifada in late September 2000. The Second Intifada was much bloodier than the first. During the first 3 weeks of the rising, Israeli forces shot 1 million live bullets at the non-Palestinian demonstrators. The 2012 Arab Peace Plan. In 2012, at the Birth Summit of the Arab League, all the Arab states except Libya endorsed the peace initiative proposed by Saudi Arabia. The plan offered an end to the Arab-Israeli conflict, including recognition of Israel, peace agreements, and normal relationship with all the Arab states, in exchange for full Israeli withdrawal from all the territories occupied since 1967, including Golan Heights. A separation barrier. In 2012, Prime Minister Sharon authorized the construction of barrier separating Israel and the West Bank. Sharon reluctantly embraced the concept of separation barrier only when he understood that it was demographically impossible for Israel to annex all of the West Bank and the Gaza Strip and remain a majority Jewish state. The separation barrier runs mostly to east of the Green Line, marking the border between Israel and the West Bank. The roadmap. The Bush administration proposed a roadmap beginning with mutual steps, including an end to violence and political reform by the Palestinian Authority and withdrawal from Palestinian cities and a settlement freeze by Israel. The roadmap's implementation was to be supervised by a quartet composed of the United States, Great Britain, Russia, and the UN. Blockade of Gaza Strip. On September 19, 2007, Israel declared that Gaza became a hostile territory. With support from Egypt under President Hosni Mubarak, Israel tightened its blockade of the Gaza Strip. Israel's 2008 to 2009 and 2012 assaults on Gaza Strip enhanced Hamas' stature and popularity among Palestinians and internationally. The secret Omar Abbas negotiation. From December 2006 to September 2008, Omar and Abbas conducted secret negotiations that came close to agreement. Since then, Omar and Abbas have publicly confirmed that they agreed on the demilitarization of the Palestinian state, stationing an American-led international security force on the border between Palestine and Israel, during Jerusalem, and an international committee to oversee its holy sites, and return of 10,000 Palestinian refugees to Israel. Palestinian statehood in the UN. Mohammed Abbas, in his capacity as the chairman of the PLO, has twice petitioned the UN to accept Palestine as a member state. However, the petition did not receive the 9 required votes. However, the General Assembly accepted Palestine as a non-member observer state. This opened the possibility that Palestine could